Hi, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. A warm welcome to Modefin webinar. Thank you all for taking your time and joining in this webinar. So, as you know that we are in this pandemic, and everyone is trying to reinvent the wheel and see how best they can adjust to the business scenarios, etc. So we thought it's the right time to get in touch with our customers, well-wishers, and our potential customers to see what best we can do for them. That's the whole purpose of this one, and that's the agenda for this today's webinar. So impact of the present situation on the banking industry, and what are the underlying opportunities this present situation and the pandemic can bring to the banking industry. So, as you all know, ladies and gentlemen, I call this as a unprecedented times. So I personally feel that during these unprecedented times, we need to take unusual decisions. Why I'm saying unusual decisions is that, we have interacted with various bankers because of our business reasons and associations, whatever it could be, across Middle East, Africa, and Asia. So usually what I hear when we propose any new systems or any new technologies or any new business opportunities is that they come up saying that there is no budget, or we're very short of the budget, or we have a plan of implementing this little later down the line here. Every bank has their own reasons and every bank has their own strategy, with the due respect. So we have to respect all these things. But I would say that this is the time, so there is no room for such speculations. There is no room for such postponements, etc. So the time is such that, we have to take unusual decisions. So let me see, end of this presentation, how many of us can dare to take such unusual decisions and what could be the outcome as well. But I only hope and wish that, these unusual decisions are right. And also, ladies and gentlemen, if I can recollect, whenever I spoke to the bankers on the, and I was part of the so many webinars during this last 2 months season. I don't know whether it's a fortunate, unfortunate. Everyone talks about digitizing. Everyone talks about bringing online, digitizing the things of the banking industry, etc. So I am sure that you might be getting bored of this word digitization, digital channels, all those things. But I don't want to keep you bored of those things. But rather, let me ask you, let me tell you a few things. What we can do in the best interest of the present situation and under the present pandemic, what we can do in the best interest of the bank. And every bank can come with their own strategy. Some banks can afford to go on a big bang approach of reinventing the complete digital strategy and implementing so many things, etc. Various reasons with due respect to their own decision. A few banks can keep thinking of how can we invest so much during these unprecedented times and to digitize this one, which is a very valid point. So under the circumstances, and these are the larger chunk of the banks, as in when I interacted. So for those bankers and for those banking institutions, let me ask you a simple question so that our task of decision making can become very effective, and it can also result in a positive way as well. So, ladies and gentlemen, under this unprecedented times, we all know that the challenges we are facing. The first challenge we are facing is that people don't want to venture out unless it is for a bare essentials, and even if they are venturing out, so there are some standard operating procedures issued by the respective government and World Health Organizations on how and in what manner they have to operate, they have to transact the business, etc. So because of these things, so there are challenges which is present to the banking industry. So if I can spell out some challenges, in an unusual way, right? There are crowds coming to your branches. So how are you going to decongest the crowds? So what are we trying to do there? And I see most of the banks, answering them that they're already on digital, they have mobile app, they have internet banking, etc., etc. But the question here is that how truly is it serving the needs of the banking spectrum? When I say banking spectrum, are your digital channels serving the needs of your retail customers, corporate customers, SMEs, mass markets, etc.? And if it's not an end-to-end offering to the entire banking spectrum, then what are you trying to do there? And at the same time, there is a limited operation staff available in the branches and the limited staff available at the operation center of the banks. So how are you keeping the efficiencies? Because the banking people always customer with the compete with the existing customers, existing banks. So we are all fighting for the same pie in the market. So how do we keep the efficiency under this present scenario? And at the same time, not only efficiency, how do we ensure that we give a better customer service under this present pandemic circumstances? Right. Not only that one, and now I have seen some government issuing the directives for digitizing the payments, other things. So how are we prepared as a bank to grab the opportunities presented in the market with this pandemic? So today I will be briefly discussing in all these areas. And idea is to, I broke down into simple questions. Idea is to see which can relate to the which kind of a banks and they can benefit out of that discussion. That's the whole idea. So ladies and gentlemen, definitely I will take the questions during this end of this and during this call. And for the interest of the presentation and the time, you can always type the questions in the chat window, and my team will be happy to assist you. And I answer personally at the end of this session as well. And if there is any question, you can type there. And so if I can go back and elaborate further. So the first thing I asked is that how are we planning to decongest the branches? See, most of the banks answer that they already launched the digital channels like mobiles, web-based channels. They launched the agency banking, etc. With the due respect, yes, they all working very well. But the question is, can we, or are we in a position to limit the branch walk-ins, or can we eliminate the branch walk-ins completely? I would say the answer is no. So we definitely cannot eliminate the branch walk-ins, and there is various reasons and underlying reasons also. So I don't deny that one. So under that scenario, when we cannot avoid the branch walk-ins and also we cannot limit the branch walk-ins, what best we can do as a banker to cope up with the present scenarios and give a better service to the banks. So this is where you need to, you need to be innovative and enable the tools like, mobile-based queue management, mobile-based branch management. So what we meant to say is that, normally the typical practice in any of the branches is that the customers walks in. The first thing they just do is that they just go to a queue dispensing machine, and they just go to that machine, they take a queue ticket, and then they wait for their turn to be called out, right? So, and you see, and during the peak season, during the month ends, or just before the festivity, holidays, etc., there are very huge crowds at the branches also. And these queue machines cannot do anything to dispense the crowd, to reduce the crowd at the branch level, and to manage them as well. All they do is that they just automate the queue so that they just serve on the first come first serve basis. That's it. But rather, my suggestion would be that you need to move away from that hardware-based approach rather to the soft mobile-based approach. Now, most of the banks has given mobile-based tools as well, mobile banking and part of their mobile banking offerings. What we should be doing is that you should enable the queue management or the branch visits on the mobile itself. So what essentially it will do is that, let's say I am in Kimathi Street in Kenya, so all I do is that I just go to my mobile app and I select what service I wanted to avail at the branch location. So based on the maps and my present location, etc., the mobile app present me an alternative that there is a branch at Kimathi Street, but for the service what you requested, there is a 20 people waiting already. So your wait time could be more. Rather, it will give me an alternative saying that there is a branch in Mama Niga Street where for the particular service what you requested, there is no one waiting. So chances are that when you walk into the branch, you will be serviced immediately. So it gives me a decision making there, and I choose where to go. Instead of going there to the Kimathi Street and waiting just for the sake of it is near to me, I prefer to go to the other branch where there is no crowd, there is no one waiting. I just quickly finish it up and get out of the branch. So these are the advantages, these mobile apps will give you. And not only that, it also gives you insights. When I say insights, what I meant is that when particular customer walks into the teller, so because of the teller interface what we have built, the teller will come to know who's visiting him, for what purpose he's visiting, what is his priorities, or is there any pending things the bank has to collect from him. So all those things can be displayed as a window over there, and the teller is better equipped to serve him for all the needs, so that you don't need to repeat the visits to the branches, and also it will save the time for both the banking operations and also for the customer as well. So this is the thing which most of the banks failure to adopt so far. So most of them, that when I just talking to them last 2 months, most of them always end up saying that, Amar, we invested so much on these queue management systems and the hardware infrastructure, etc. Yes, with the due respect, you invested, but the time is like that we have to take an unusual decision, and whether to suffer with the same old things or just do on the new things. You see, why I'm saying this is because a survey by Change is evident that 30% of the existing bank customer try to change their bank because of a poor quality on the customer service, because of banks failing to adopt to their changes and adapt to their changing environment. So if we don't adapt to the changing environment and changing lifestyle, changing expectations of the customers, the chances are that the customer may walk away from you as well, someone who's offering these things. So this at the branch level, I would say it. And also, ladies and gentlemen, most of the banker, when I spoke to them, they said that, yes, we are offering a digital channels. So when I asked them that what kind of digital channels you are offering, usually they say that we have a mobile apps, we have the web presence, internet banking, other things to serve the corporate other things. But I would say, the present scenario is that the trend is that the people are more resilient on mobile than on the internet, than on the web-based tools and solutions. So as a result, so it's a time you rethink that can your mobile apps can automate the end-to-end requirements of your corporates, SMEs, mass markets also. So when I spoke to the most of the banks, most of the banks end up saying that mobile is mainly predominantly for the retail customers. They are doing it, and the web-based tools like internet banking, all those things, they're targeting for corporates and SMEs. So I was surprised, and let me quote a very best example. What I came across is Atlas Mara Zambia, a banker in Zambia, who's my customer as well. So very recently they are launching, they undergone to launch a SME-based app, mobile app for SME customers. What they're trying to do there is that they are automating all the SME requirements into a mobile app, and they're targeting to service the SMEs on the mobile app itself. And also, see, nowadays the corporate banking requirements are evolving, they are changing. It was not like 10 years back. 10 years back, you are giving internet banking to the corporate customers, they're very happy. They're very happy, they love you. But today, if you are doing the same thing, they don't love you, they hate you for that matter. You know why? Because their times are changing, their demands are changing. You see, for example, let me take a simple example. I was talking to a customer in Ghana where the bank is working with us for implementing the corporate internet banking. So this is the tool we give on to them. We told them, see, salary automation and bulk uploads is one of the feature most of the corporate bankers expect. Yes, you give to that. But I told them the approval process of salary uploads, bulk uploads, all those things should happen on the internet banking itself. I told them, give a mobile app. On your existing mobile app, automate the workflow so that what happens is that when the finance manager uploads the salary sheet on using a corporate internet banking, the MD of the company gets a notification on his mobile app. And all he do is that just log into the mobile app and just looks to the final summary of that sheet and just approve it on the mobile. So that you don't necessarily open a tablet or notepad or a laptop and just log into the corporate banking site and do a second level of authorization, all those things. So these are the end-to-end, smaller things we should take care in implementation and in adopting this technology, so that we bring what is required into the system as well. And also one of the challenges most of the corporate banking guys faces is that most of the corporates have multiple bank accounts. So meaning to say that they have to bank with the multiple bankers, and multiple bankers gives multiple technology tools. It's always a nightmare for a corporate customer to keep track of all those tools. So we are working on a concept to give you an approach using your mobile banking tool. They should able to know what is the bank balance available in different bank they are banking with. What is wrong in giving those things? There's nothing wrong in that. It's only that you are delighting the customer by giving those tools. And today the technology is so mature, and these things can be automated. This is what people call it as API banking and open banking, all those things. So we need to adapt to those things as well. If you don't adapt to these things, the chances are that the corporate guy can move away from you to someone who is giving these things. See, today you might be hearing a buzzword called neo banks or digital banks, etc. Right? These are the things digital banks is trying to do. So when they come on board full time and they try to do all these things which you are still struggling to do, so the chunk of the customer that they take away from you, so that business is gone from you. So that way I would say that, and I urge all the customers, the digital tools what you're offering is good. I'm not denying the fact it's good for a moment, and I think right now it's the time you need to reinvent the digital tools you are offering, so that we can fill that gaps which are missing also. And second thing, let me also tell you why I am saying this is repeatedly important is because, see, till yesterday the case was different. Till 2 months back, I don't mind asking my finance manager to go out of this office and say, hey, go to this branch and get the statements, or go to this branch manager and speak to him and get all these things done. But today, even I am afraid, my finance manager is also afraid to go out. Now, because everyone is asymmetric carrier here, so we don't know what is going to happen. So as a result, I prefer a app which can give me, even though I am banking with, let's say, Republic Bank Ghana as a corporate banking customer, I wanted to know what is the bank balance available for me at Universal Merchant Bank Ghana. I don't mind having it on the same app. And it's the problem of Republic Bank to figure it out how they can achieve these things. And it is easily achievable. It's easily achievable. So it's only that they have to take the technology leap and technology advantage to enhance the system. That's it. The day the banker do all these things for me, as a corporate customer, I'm very much delighted, and I love to work with them. And not only love to work with them, I try to recommend some other corporate cases also to them because they're delighting me in the services. So it's ladies and gentlemen, it's the time we reinvent this wheel, and that's the reason again I called as we need to take unusual decisions, right? So I don't know how many bankers think of giving these options, but it's definitely unusual, but it brings a business to you end of the day. So this is the time we need to reinvent this wheel as well. At the same time, so the other thing is that I was talking about, you have a limited customers in the branches. Sorry, you have limited operation staff available in the branches, and also you have a limited operation staff available in operations. So how are you going to maintain the same efficiency? See, this is going to be around. That's why people calling it as a new normal. So if this is a new normal, this is going to be around for a while. And the news, at least in India, in other countries, is that till December end, there are going to be periodic lockdowns, periodic curfews, etc., etc., etc. So that means we are now trying to realize the new normal for us. If this new normal is that everyone cannot to afford to work as 100% capacity, then with what are the capacity allowed? For example, in South Africa, it's allowed 33% capacity. In India, till yesterday, it was 33% capacity. Only last week that they're trying to increase the capacity also. Right? In Ghana, it's still under the perceived lockdown. In Botswana, it's in complete lockdown. They're trying to open. In Uganda, they just opened the market very recently. So those things are there. So if this is going to be the new normal for us, and if we have to live with this limited operational staff available, how are you going to continue our banking operations to the extent how it was normal previously? Previously, I used to hear the buzzwords like your retail loan approved in 24 hours. Your SME loan approved in 4 working days. Your corporate loan approved in 1 working week. So all those buzzwords. But now, as a banker, are we still afford to maintain the same buzzwords? As a banker, are we still in a position to maintain the same efficiency levels with a limited staff as well? So this is the question which every banker has to think of themselves. And I would say that if that is the motive which drives your business even today under this new normal also, it is possible. It's not impossible. It is possible. We just need to see how we adopt the technology, embrace the technology to achieve these statistics, right? So this is where the automation of loan automation like SME loan. When I say loans, it could be retail loans, SME loans, corporate loans, etc. End-to-end automation. When I say end-to-end automation, from the start, acquiring customer for a loan is a prospect, and then you qualifying him for a particular loan which he is applying. Then you appraising him in terms of the underwriting capacity, in terms of the risk proficiency, etc., part of your risk profile, and then deciding on the disbursements and the loan amount, etc. Then disbursements, then finally getting the cash out of the bank accounts, etc. So all those things can be automated. And this automation not necessarily on this automation can happen in such a way that it is a combination of the robotic automation plus the human intervention as well. So this is where we emphasize, and this is where we advise the banks to use the technologies like robotic process automation, and this can be worked out and implemented in such a way that the mundane tasks can be automated using the robotic process automation, and the decision can yet be taken by the key decision makers, so that there is no errors also, and there is no favoritism as well, actually. So all those things can be automated. So once you do a combination of the robotic process automation and the decision making at the human levels as well, your decision making cycle is cuts down. You can still maintain the yardsticks for your efficiency, which you was maintaining before the pandemic, and you can still able to give the same level of customer service and efficiency to your existing business as well. So it is a time, ladies and gentlemen, to embrace on these new technologies like robotic process automation as well. At the same time, another challenge which this limited operation staff, or because of this limited staff availability at the branches or the operation center, poses is the customer service. So no doubt, banking industry is a very customer service oriented industry. And I have seen, how the banks are spending on this customer service. For example, if I can take a example of Equity Bank, if I take an example of Janaco in Zambia, if I take an example of Universal Merchant Bank in Ghana, Lesotho Post Bank in Lesotho, Stanbic Bank in different countries, right? Bank of Africa in different countries, and UPA in different countries, which they're all my customers, by the way. So if you can see how much amount of time they are spending on customer service. When I say amount of time, not only in terms of the physical time the humans are spending, but also the machines and also the infrastructure they laid out, to meet the requirement of this customer service is very huge, and it's very huge and very cost intensive, and it's very operational cost intensive, I would say. So, but here, in the new normal, under the new normal, the dynamics should change. If we keep on investing on this infrastructure, if we keep on investing on this, human intensive customer support, etc., it is going to be fail. We are going to fail, and it is going to be very expensive affair for bankers also, because the bankers are living in a dilemma. Can I get a business under this scenario is their first question. And if they get a business, then how much is the second question? And then in that, how much they can invest back onto these things is their question. So we have to be very smart in deciding how best we can embrace on the technology again to service this customer as well. This is where I would like to touch upon, the technologies like chatbots, and other things, but to service your customers. See, these chatbots are fantastic tools, where you can automate these chatbots, you can automate the workflows, and the systems will learn by themselves, using the machine language tools, etc. They adapt to the changes, they adapt to the customer behaviors, and they try to answer the questions. And so when you are implementing these things, my 1 cent advice is that, so we have to go away from the traditional approach, because to be honest, I interact with some chatbots, on some portals or some customers, for example. Recently I was experiencing a chatbot experience with the airline industry, and also on banking industry as well. So where we implemented this one, and this is the argument I had with the banker, and I said, boss, we have to change this approach. So they will ask a question that, are you existing customer or a new customer? How does it make sense to you, whether you have a new customer or an old customer to you? So all I am expecting is I have some question, or I am stuck at some issue. All I am expecting is to resolve the issue for me, right? So when you are implementing these kind of sophisticated tools, try to bifurcate, the segments. So you use the tools only for a customer acquisition differently, or a sales purpose differently, and use the tools for a customer servicing differently, so that people don't get annoyed with your unusual things. So these are the simple things we should take care while implementing, so that so our customers are delighted, and the customers don't lose the patience in answering all the things. One of the peculiar problem what everyone faces when they go approach a call center or they approach IVR is that it gives a menu tree saying that press 1 for English, press 2 for some French, press 3 for Swahili, or etc. etc. And again, if I choose my language, they say that press 1 for etc. etc. So you see, by the time I wanted to talk to an agent, it takes me 2-3 minutes to navigate the tree. Then the guy come on board and say again, he asked me, Mr. Amar, welcome on board. May I know your customer reference number or something, etc. etc. So that can be cut short. So when we implement these chatbots and these advanced tools, so the workflow has to be so sophisticated that we should be able to cut short all these mundane issues and then come to the point very straight. See, today, you don't believe, We have designed some apps where we don't even ask the password. We ask the password when it is necessary, when it is needed. So otherwise, there is no need to ask the password also. So that way, we are cutting short the cycle. And also now you see, remember one thing: every banker who's a competitor to you is trying to embrace on the new technology. So if not today, some other day you will also do the same thing what you are trying to do. And then the competition is how efficient the apps are, how sophisticated these apps are. So that is where these small things makes very sense. So when you are implementing these things, kindly ensure that so we give attention to the small and minor things, and these small and minor things are makes a big impact, so that we don't annoy the customer and the customer remain with us. This is on how we embrace the new technologies to do the customer servicing as well, right? And now the new normal, as I said, is that the prolonged lockdowns and limited stuff, work from homes, so all the things. And so meaning to say that you don't see the crowds outside the way you used to see before. If I can take a realistic example, most of my customers, at least, they used to put a stalls in a shopping malls, in a commercial areas, in a markets, crowded markets, etc., etc. So what have so the purpose is multiple. One is that they want to promote the brand, they want to make the brand visible, number one, and number second, also to attract the customers, etc. So, but now under the present scenario, can you imagine you going out and putting a stall to attract the customers? I don't think so. You cannot even tie up with commercial agencies or commercial shopping malls or theaters or marketplaces, etc., to do all those things. So that means, so then how are you going to attract the new customers to the banking industry? Because that is your bread and butter. Every day you have to attract the new customers. So you cannot rely. You cannot simply sit back and say that, hey, last year my customer base is 3 million, so I will ride on them to navigate this pandemic. Maybe right, may not be right also. So you have to attract the new customers, right? So to attract the new customers under this new normal, how are you going to do this one? So ladies and gentlemen, the new normal is that you have to heavily bank on the digital channels, which is a known fact. Maybe you are already banking with you are already working with the social sites like Facebook or a Twitter or a LinkedIn or other available social media. But so if you're already banking, what are the changes? You need to focus on these things. What happens is that when you try to attract the new customers, so don't make it as generic. No, so placing a generic card on a digital platform does not guarantee that you are going to get a customer to your service or to your bank. Rather, you have to make use of the analytics available. So nowadays most of the social sites comes with the cookies and various tools. As a result, they know which customer is visiting their site, for what purpose they are visiting, and etc., etc. You know that you are a perfect and you are a superior in these things better than me, right? So what you should do is that you should heavily focus on this digital acquisition. When you focus on digital acquisition, your strategy is to targeted approach, right? So visibility and focus has to both go hand in hand. So you should stay visible on the digital platforms, yet you should be focused. A focused approach without a visibility is not going to guarantee a result. Similarly, a visible approach without a focused result is not going to give you any better result. So you have to maintain these two hand in hand. So what I meant to say is that if I can give an example, maybe today you should focus only to give a placement related to the corporate customers, which can resemble to your product, so that we focus and we be visible to them on these days. Similarly, tomorrow or maybe some particular time, a particular area or particular market segment or particular locality, you need to focus on giving a visible, one which relate to the retail only, or which relate to the money transfers, which relate to the, which relates to the pandemic issues, etc. So that you bank on the relevance. Basically, let me give you a very quick examples. I would like to quote a small to medium sized banks who are my customers again, who did a fantastic job using this opportunity. This pandemic is a problem to everyone. Is a problem to everyone. And the governments also needs the support. The economy is going down. I know everyone needs the support. So as a result, what a few bankers has did is that few bankers have launched a option called COVID fund. So, and every country is doing this. In India, our Prime Minister also launched the initiative like PM Care, so anyone can donate the funds for that PM Care fund. What these banks has done is that they have gone one step ahead and said on their mobile app, they launched an option called COVID fund. If anyone is interested in supporting to the COVID fund, please contribute to that. All they need is that whether they are customers, they are non-customers of your bank, they just download the app, they go to the particular menu. If they are a customer, they give a credentials to debit their existing account and credit to the fund. If they are non-customer, we use the other tools available, tools like a wallet or a card, etc., authorization, etc., to collect the funds also. And Bank of Bhutan has launched this, which is a fantastic idea, and they are able to succeed in mobilizing the funds. And by the way, through this, they're able to help the government as well. And the government has placed appreciation on their approach and the initiative. And similarly, the similar option was launched in Sudan also, called Bank of Khartoum, which is the largest bank in Sudan. They launched the same option called COVID Fund. Anyone is interested in contributing the COVID fund, please subscribe to this one. If they are a customer, they download the BOK app, and the existing customer, they log in, they contribute to the fund. They are non-customer, they don't need to log in also. They just download the app, give the details what the app is asking. The fund, they can able to contribute to the fund also. So that means you see how relevant they are banking on this pandemic. And also not only staying relevant, but also they are staying relevant, and also they are contributing to the cause also. That's the beauty of it. So bankers has to capture the existing tools and technologies to launch such innovative things, right? And other things, some of the bankers, what they were little afraid of doing, not I won't say afraid, they are little concerned of using these tools, and also the regulatory concerns, hurdles, etc., etc. So one of the key challenge for every banker faces is the KYC to onboard a customer, right? So now banks are becoming very smart. They are implementing the wallet systems, and they are onboarding the customer as a non-KYC customer also on the wallet system and doing the business as usual, which is very fine. But when the customer really wanted to become a banking customer, then how to take the KYC also? So now the banks are taking the KYC on a video mode. So using the apps, what they are doing is they capture all their KYC documents as a photographs, etc. So on a maker checker, they go through this proper validation, verification, etc. And then when they really wanted to see the customer face, what they do is that they just open a video call with the customer, which could be pre-scheduled or a random. All those things can be configured, and on the video call, they are just onboarding the customer. Right. So till yesterday, these things are new, they are not a normal, but nowadays they're becoming very normal. And most of the regulators who has a concern on approving this as a technology for onboarding the customer are now blindly giving go ahead to adopt all those technologies. So this is another way of onboarding the customer under the new normal as well. Right. And not only this onboarding the customer, what we are doing is that, one of the peculiar problem the banker faces is that first they onboard a customer on a retail, let's assume. So once the customer becomes a retail, then let's say he's transacting more and more, and then he's upgraded his status as a premium customer, etc. Then slowly he become a businessman also. Then when it comes to the banks for a business loan, again banks start asking the same set of KYC documents. So they say that please someone give me this set of documents, etc., etc., etc. But in the contrary, 50% of those documents are already available with the banks. But banks are not able to make use of those documents because why? Number one, they are segregated. They are not properly archived, properly stored digitally, and properly maintained. But rather, they are scattered. They are scattered. Number one. Number second, the banker don't know that these documents are relevant or what are the relevance status. When I say relevant status is that 5 years back when you were onboarded to the customer as a customer to this bank, your address could be X. But now today your address might have changed it. So always banker needs the latest KYC, latest updates also, right? So the banker is right in asking these details, but we should find a smart way using this technology to see how do we avoid the inconvenience in the customer by asking again and again to submit the same document. So we came up with the tools and technologies. What we are telling to the bankers is that, listen, when you are taking the KYC, all those things, there is an option called update KYC, or there is an option called monitor the KYC. What happens is that when we are migrating the relationship of a customer from one level to the another level, or from one stage to the another stage, so the system knows what kind of documentation is required. And also system, the backend checks already what are the documents available with this bank for this particular profile. So it throws a list saying that these documents are already available. Then the next question is, does these documents are relevant? So for this, what we are doing is that we are automatically integrating with the population register of the respective countries, and also we have collected the social profiles, etc. So as a combination of the social profile and which we get from the social medias and other available public forums, and also by way of integrating with the respective countries' citizenship database or a population registry or a national database, etc. We verify the relevance of these details. If the relevance is matching more than 90% or 80% as defined by you as a banking policy, we say that these documents are still relevant, and we tell the customer, okay, just submit these 2-3 documents which are new to us. So that way you don't inconvenience the customer, and also customer is very happy to give you what is new rather than giving all his history again and again and again. So these are the new normal things which a banker has to focus under this, pandemic issues. And I would say that is the reason in the beginning of my remarks also I said that these are the unusual times, unprecedented times. We calls for unusual decisions, right? So that's the reason I say those things. So, ladies and gentlemen, so with this we are coming to the end of my presentation as well. And in the interest of time, this is the last one I'm going to talk about. So, recently the Rwanda government has issued an order saying that all the payments has to be digitized, and also they specifically spoke about merchant payments has to be 100% digitized. There is a presidential order in this regard. So what does it present? It presents two things. One is that it presents a huge opportunity to digitize the payment ecosystem in the country, number one. And number second, it also presents an opportunity for everyone. When I say everyone, for the government, for the stakeholders, for the regulators, for the citizens, to reduce the dependency on a cash. So if you can recollect, till recently the governments are little hesitant to go away from the cash-based economy. It's only last 2-3 years that they are pushing into the digital economy, but before that they're heavily dependent on the cash-based economy. But with these new directives, let's say imagine a situation where the Rwanda government has given a directive on the presidential order, asking them to digitize the merchant payments, etc., meaning to say that they are slowly, step by step, pushing towards the digital economy. So that means that is going to be the new normal. Slowly but steadily, if not today, but slowly, most of the governments is going to adopt these things into the new normal. So when these new challenges are presenting the new opportunity, like digitalizing the end-to-end payment ecosystem, how each bank is prepared to capture these opportunities available in the market. The one thing is that most of the banks will say that I issued a proprietary cards, or I have a Visa card or a MasterCard, I have etc. So I am going to drive through the cards. But let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, card is not a end-to-end payment tool. So card has its own limitations. No doubt, card has changed the landscape of the payments with due respect to the various providers and organizations who are spearheading the approach on these things. But card also has their own limitations. Okay, you see, this is the global proven case study. What I'm going to tell you right now. You take any country. You take the biggest economies, or you take the lowest economies, or the medium-sized economies also. I have no problem. In any country, except the first one or two largest banks, or maybe if the country size is very big, like India or China, maybe the first few banks, 3 or 4 banks, remaining banks cannot make money out of this card business. This card business is a bleeding business for most of the bankers, except the 1 or 2 banks who are very big, very large. They are the only people who make some money. In India also, guys like SBM, guys like Axis, guys like ICICI makes money on card business. But the remaining guys, the small to medium bank, they don't make money on a card business. They bleed. But they still offer this card as a tool because there is a convenience is bought, and the customer is bought onto that idea. Right? You take Kenya as an example. Only Equity and KCB are making the money on card. Remaining banks are not making any money on the card business. Right? You take Ghana as an example. Only the few banks like Republic and UMB, are making the money. Or if you take the Zambia as an example, only Janaco is making money on the card. Remaining banks are bleeding, but still they have to give it because this is the convenience they brought into the system. Right? But let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, that is going away. You see, with the emergence of more and more wallets, in the countries, respective countries, with the emergence of or penetration of the mobile into the market, and adoption of the mobile by the larger citizens and the consumers, banking consumers also, the landscapes are changing. So today the customers are more okay to make the payments using the QR codes, make the payments using the USSD mode also, or make the payments using the apps also. There are various things which brought into this ecosystem. So the customers are very much okay to adopt these new technologies. And also, when I say the QR codes or on USSD on a merchant code, etc. See, these are a cost-effective tools for a banker to launch a merchant acquiring and merchant payments. When you want to automate a merchant acquiring, merchant payments, not necessarily you should go on to the card model. So you should go on a hybrid model where your primary objective is to acquire the merchant, so they become your own, or maybe you can trade the merchant also. You are very big, and you can enable the QR codes or USSD IDs, etc. And you can make them to you can ask your consumers to make the payments using their mobile phones, either on an app or USSD, etc. Right? And yet, you can also on the same platform acquire a non-banking customer. When I say non-banking, he is not belongs to your bank. That's what I mean. But still, he is banking with someone else. So non-banking customer. On a card model also. So that's what we call as a hybrid model. So if he's not your customer, we're still using the card, we can acquire him, we can finish the transactions, and we can do the settlement at the back end. And if he's your own customer, you can acquire him without a card, and you can do the settlement immediately as well. So these are the new things which is in the market, and you being a banker should embrace on all the new things. And this is what I mean to say, so the card may not be the end-to-end payment tool for all the bankers. So along with the card, we should also need to embrace the technologies like QR codes, mobile USSD codes, etc., to acquire the end-to-end merchant as well. And one of the other reason is that operational profitability and adaptability as well. When you go to the, you see for the cards, the problem is that it's a cost for a banker to issue the cards also. And second thing, it's a cost for a banker to maintain the card infrastructure as well. You have to give the POS machines, etc. The traditional POS machines are always costly, and they use to pass on this cost to the merchant. But the merchant can afford is a big, but a smaller merchant he cannot afford. So that is the reason where when you go on a QR code model or USSD model, you can even acquire the merchants of the smaller streets also, right? And the other example I would like to quote here is that, you see, I was in Ghana very recently before this pandemic. I was going through multiple streets, and how many street vendors you see on these Ghanaian streets? There are so many. I mean, this scenario is not peculiar to Ghana only. In most of the countries wherever I traveled, at least, See, the problem with the bankers is that the banker cannot acquire these street vendors as a customers on either on a card model nor on a core banking model. They cannot acquire, because the first problem is the KYC challenge they might pose, and second thing is that card operationally viability for the street merchants also. But if you propose them to acquire on a wallet model, on a QR code model, or on a USSD code model as a merchant, you see the numbers. I will give you a simple example. So I was walking on the Independence Street, so I could see around, I was just physically counting them, how many guys was there. In the stretch which I was taking the walk, I could see around 40 to, let's say 30 to 40 street vendors, that stretch. So assume that each street vendor, let's take 30 as a count, each street vendor do a business of $100 only in a day. That means 30 into 100, we are talking about $3,000 in a day. That is in one particular street. So in Accra, that is the capital of the Ghana, so there are so many such streets. Let's say that for an empirical way, let's take 20 as an example. So if you take 20 as an example, 30 street vendors in a 20 is 600, and each guy is doing a $100 business in a day. 600 into 100 is a $60,000 business in a day. So assume that in a month they're only active for 20 days. So $60,000 into 20 days is $1.2 million worth of business we're capturing. But let me ask you a simple question. which banker is really banking on them to get that cash inside the banking system? I would say very few. So this is the case study I was discussing with my bankers in my customers in Ghana when I was meeting them, and this is the case study I given to them. So the latest technologies, latest wallets will offer you give to these things, and all you need to do is that you need to be smart enough to formulate a strategy or to formulate a product so that it suits their requirements, it meets the compliance requirements, where business can be achieved. I was recently talking to the Zambian one customer in Zambia called National Savings and Cooperative Bank. This is the government-owned bank where their motive is to bring the savings under the system and improve the saving culture, I would say, or increase the saving culture among the people. So that's the whole objective. So I was again talking to them, using the digital channels. See, when I say digital channel, don't think that only the mobile banking or internet banking, agency banking is the only thing. They have the high level, but you need to be very smart enough, or you need to be very creative to see by using these things, what are you trying to achieve? Unless you focus on these things, the result will not be very proper, and you cannot achieve the end goals. So when I was talking to them, well, you use these things, they're my customers, so we given a strategy to them to use these things to automate the saving societies, automate the saving groups, and also not only automating it, getting these groups into the markets, etc. So now they're working with the grassroots. They're going to the individual markets, in the country, and trying to tap them onto the platform, give these tools to them so that the savings can be automated, digitized, and the liquidity can come into the banking system also. So these things not necessarily should happen on the card model. So these things, you should go on a combination of the available tools like card or QR, and USSD and other things as well, so that which segment you are targeting and which kind of a flavor can go well with them, so that you can offer to them. That's the whole idea. Unless you do these things, so it will not be successful, and it's unlikely that we can achieve the objectives what we are trying to achieve. So, ladies and gentlemen, the whole idea of asking these questions and splitting down and explaining is that most of the banks, when they want to digitize, I hear them saying that I have a very huge budget, so let's target these things, etc. But other things will say that no, the budgets is the problem and the timing is the problem, etc., etc. So in any case, when you break down your tasks, that by way of digitizing or by way of digital channels, what you are trying to achieve at each level, by way of these things, it's easy for you to focus. And that also cut down your budgets, cut down your implementation time, cut down your expectations, etc. And decision making can be fast, and the result can be fast. So the one thing in the market is that to stay relevant and staying fast in the market is always going to help us. So for us to staying relevant in the market, staying going fast into the market, we need to break down the tasks. The biggest tasks we need to break down and see how and what we can implement fast. So that's what determines as a leader, and that's what determines as a winner as well. So, ladies and gentlemen, with that, we came to the end of our presentation, and I hope it was useful to you. And we, as a company, ladies and gentlemen, it's a Modefin is known in the market across Middle East and Africa. It's a 10 years old company, and we are working with 60 plus bankers across Middle East and Africa. And in any country you take, the biggest banks are working with us. Not only the biggest bank, the small to medium banks also working with us in using our digital channels to service their customers. And I can give you a success story in most of the countries where we are operating. And if you need any of the suggestions, or if you need any of the strategies to implement under these present scenarios, or you want to talk further on these things, I'm available. You can reach out to us personally, or you can reach out to us on my sales guys also available in our local markets. And these are the contact details. You can always reach out to me to discuss your strategies, or to discuss your further clarifications, or for fine-tune your strategies across. So based on our past experience working with so many bankers, we should be able to add value to you as well. So with this, the floor is open for the question and answers. Thank you very much. So, ladies and gentlemen, if I can look at some of the attendees, maybe let me see who are my friends here, who are my foes. So I could see some of my colleagues. I could see Mr. Tize Tusenga Dorji. He is from Bhutan. So they are my customer, and we have just started to implement our technology to them. And I'm happy to notice Mr. Mukund. He is again from SBM. He is my customer. And Viola again from Bank of Africa, Uganda. She is my very good customer. And Dennis is around, who is my colleague, based out of Kenya, looking into the implementation. And Mega, who is my family friend and who is he is my author. So I told her to write autobiography when I become big. So I think she's following me wherever I am. So and Mr. Oscar again, my customer, and Vani is my sales partner. Happy to see her here. And there are so many my customers. And Alex is here on the call, who's from Family Bank. He is one of the biggest customer in Kenya. And customer, the list can go on. And I could see Mahase. I think he just dropped out of the call. So thank you, Mahase, for joining. Yeah. So the floor is open for is how our unbanked population are being focused by banks as they face the large hit during this crisis. Chirag, if you can notice, there are a couple of things I touched base very briefly in the presentation. First one is on the slide which I talked about, not only the cards but also the QR codes and also the USSD codes and also the agency banking, other things. You need to make use as a delivery point, touch points, and also I talked about under the new normal, what are the new things we can use to onboard the customers, etc. So Chirag, if I can bifurcate your question into two ways. One is that attracting them into the system so that I can service them, and second thing, how do I service once they become my customer? So for attracting them nowadays, most of the banks, what we're approaching them is that there are sophisticated tools using the mobiles, using the MPOS devices, etc. We can onboard them as a customers, number one. And number second, once we onboard them as a customer, we can service them based on the other touch points like agent locations or the shops, or at the QR code model, etc. So these two are the combination of things we can make use of them, and that is the way relevant. And also, one of the thing what we are advising our customers is that be contactless. What we say, be contactless, etc., so that ATMs can dispense the cash without keying in your card details, without inserting your card, etc. That is the other thing we are also asking our customers to automate. And also what we are trying to do is that we are trying to make the cash disbursing on the agent. It's already automated, like by way of cash out, all those things, but we've gone ahead one step further, and we told that you don't need to share your credentials or ask the agent for cash out, etc. Rather, you just show your code and cash can be withdrawn. So the moment you show your code, and the code can be inputted at the agent location by the agent, and in the agent app we get the history of those transactions and authentication as well, and you can disburse the cash straight. So those things we are doing it. So I hope I answered your question, Chirag. The next question, gentlemen. And by the way, I am very happy to announce the partnership with our Evolve Technologies. He's a device manufacturer based out of India. What we do is that we have a very tight partnership with them, and wherever we go, we recommend Evolve devices. And the Evolve devices are based on their past experience, and they have their own manufacturing center. These devices are very smart, and it won't lock down to certain manufacturers, certain card management system, etc. So we also partner with them to promote their devices as well. So any other questions, ladies and gentlemen? If there are no further questions, then I would like to end this webinar with a thanking note for all your time, and for all my partners who joined from various locations, and all my customers who joined from various locations, all my colleagues who joined from Bangalore, from Kenya, from Ghana, from Botswana, from Burundi, etc. thank you, a big thank you for all of you for your time. And my presentation, if required, will be shared to you. And I think I noticed that it's not in a shared mode, but I think we can enable it to you. Thank you very much. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and have a good day. Not